Guess who's back from the bayou? Here's your look at the NECA Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Napoleon and Attila. Designed to be Shredder's amphibian counterparts to the Turtles, Napoleon and Attila join their brothers to complete the team. Swamped with accessories, this 2-pack comes with interchangeable heads and hands, money bags, flail, whip, mini frogs, and more. Comes in collector-friendly window box packaging. Did I ever happen to tell you the joke about the frog that goes into a bank looking for a loan? Maybe some other time. I'd like to thank, though, the folks over at NECA Toys that provided this sample of Napoleon and Attila that we could have a look at in this review. For, of course, some size comparisons, this now marks the second 2-pack of the frogs that we have gotten. We can bring in the previously looked at Rasputin, and we can also bring in the previously looked at Genghis. So you can see the difference of all the frogs, basically all going to be using the same molds. Pretty much all the molds, the torsos, the legs, and the arms are all the same to one another, but it's really the color scheme that make them all unique. And then, of course, for some other comparisons, we can bring in just a Ninja Turtle. Here he is next to Michelangelo, or here they are with Michelangelo. They're roughly going to be about the same height as one of the Turtle brothers. NECA throws a ton of accessories at this 2-pack of frogs, giving us interchangeable heads, giving us interchangeable hands, not to mention a bunch of things that they can actually hold in their hands. I've tried my best to split it up so that Napoleon's is on the one side, Attila's is on the other, and what they sharesies in the middle. Speaking of sharesies, they come included with a photo album. The photo album from the outside certainly looks like something you would see from the cartoon, colored nicely with even a panel lining down on the spine of the book. And while the inside, you can't close the book, it is made of a slightly softer plastic. But on the inside, you can actually see there's some photos. On the one side, it seems to be all the 4 frog brothers. The other side, it seems to be a turtle with Rocksteady of all things. And then down below, there's Bebop with what looks to be Slash. Not sure the significance of these photos specifically, but the fact that you do get yourself a photo book is a nice touch. And this is something, of course, you can have them either held in their hands, or you can just, of course, display it along with the figures. Things that you can also hold in their hands are bags of money, ×2. Though I'm not sure the denomination or actually what the contents are, I can tell you the bags feel rather full. They're solid plastic, after all. There's the dollar signs on the bottom to indicate that they do contain money and not dirty laundry. And it looks like they've also been tied up at the top as well. These are always good and handy. Sometimes I like to actually display the money bags with things like foot soldiers. I just think that's a really foot soldier thing to do. They come included with those. The figures also come included with little miniaturized baby versions of themselves, which I think I have properly put to the right colors. It wasn't so much an issue with the other 2 frogs because they were definitely different in color, but when you get to Napoleon and Attila, the colors are so close to one another, I sort of had to ballpark that I think this one here is for Napoleon, and this one here is for Attila. You can see that one of the frogs is just a slightly darker swamp green than the other. The face sculpts seem to be the same. And again, these will go rather nicely with the other 2 frog 2-pack, the other frog 2-pack that we got before. Like I said, they're not articulate or anything like that. They're just staction frogs. I really should get around to telling that joke. Everybody's screaming in the background, don't tell that joke about the frog walking into a bank. Let's put those to the side. Figures also come included with some swappable hands. And again, in this case, they're dedicated to specific frogs. I mean, I guess you could really use this for Napoleon, but the colors seem slightly different. Again, if we hold it up to the figure, you can see like the green isn't quite the same green. So I really wouldn't use this for this frog and vice versa. Let's get the figure to stand here. So you get a couple of thumbs up hands. And you also get yourself a couple of gripping hands. Good for holding the said bag of money, the ×2 that we already had a look at. Get a couple of those. And then it's more dedicated to Napoleon. Whoops, almost dropped those. It also comes with a couple of surfs up hands. Radical hands, I guess if you could say as well. And again, these all switch out with the hands that are currently in the sockets of their forearms. And then there's also a closed fist, which is not as interesting, I would say, as the rest of the hands that we get with these figures. And they all work the same way. You unpeg them from the forearms. Yeah, I know you guys know the drill by now. Let's look at the weapons that come included with the figures. And again, I think I've got Napoleon on the left, Attila on the right. Dedicated for their accessories, Napoleon comes included with his whip. The whip is made of softer plastic, and while you may think to yourself, well, it's just soft plastic, further inspection looks to be like they've got a wire frame on the inside, so you can actually manipulate and bend the whip if you'd like. And I always like the fact that they do incorporate wire frames. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful, though. Looking at the plastic from just what little I've started to bend it, it looks like the plastic is soft enough to be able to go along with the bending of the wire. I hope that it's not going to be a case that down the road it's going to start splitting. I guess if you feel a little worrisome about the whole idea, you can kind of keep the whip more extended out. And that can, of course, fit into Napoleon's hands. I don't even really need to change the hands out to do that either. Just slip the whip into Napoleon's hands. You can have the figure displayed with that. And then on the other end of things, on the other side of the screen, Attila comes with a flail, or a mace ball with chain. The chain is actually a real chain, which is a nice touch, though the chain itself is made of plastic links as opposed to metal. It looks like, again, something that he would have in the cartoon, and go ahead, you can take then Attila and fit that into his hand like that. And then, of course, you can have the figures displayed. Now, the other two frogs that we already had a look at, they both also had the option to have weapons, accessories held in their hand. And that's currently what I had them on the shelf with, hoping, of course, that down the road we eventually would get a Napoleon and Attila, and of course that's what we're having a look at in this review. The figures also come included with some swappable head sculpts. Again, mentioned earlier with the hands. Let's grab the other one here. You can definitely see there is a difference in color between the two. This one's a little bit darker, so it would of course go to this frog, and this one's a little bit lighter, it would go then to this frog here. I do like the coloring of the eyes. I mean, all these turtle figures from NECA Toys are fantastic. I mean, if you really want definitive turtle cartoon toys, there's nothing really better than what we're getting from NECA. And again, you can just swap those out. With that being said, let's get a closer look now at the figures. Taking the whip out of Napoleon's hand and getting a closer look at the figure head sculpt, I want to bring in one of the earlier turtles, one of the earlier frogs, I should say, to bring it in so you can see, yeah, not much too different other than like the head sculpts are different. Although, putting this one down and grabbing the swappable head sculpt we looked at earlier, clearly they seem to be using the same head sculpts again and again. It's just a matter of, again, popping that out if you want to use the more neutral head sculpt or if you want to have the more grimaced teeth showing on the side. Again, this is the one I was using for this frog. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and pick the figure back up and just do a straight comparison between the two. When it comes to a mold, I mean, they're not different. It seems like they're using the same bodies. Even like the shirts themselves look like they are exactly the same. But of course, it's the coloring that really does differentiate one turtle, one frog to the other. Not to mention as well that the necklaces are also different. Napoleon's has more of the circular necklace there, whereas this one does have the triangle. I spin around to the back. Again, same bodies, same lower limbs, and same arms being utilized here. It's just, again, a matter of swapping out the colors. And I really wouldn't expect them to start remolding, coming up with brand new molds for these characters. Because at the end of the day, too, like, I don't think necessarily we need to get all the... If really the turtles can be using the same molds, I don't think it's that far off to be thinking that the frogs could utilize the same molds as well. And again, one other comparison. We can bring in Genghis. I think this is Genghis. He is actually my favorite of the batch. I just like the bright colors that he has. Now, one thing that's interesting, though, about the frogs is they've actually paired them also with samesies-looking necklaces. Legs on these guys are just a little on the loose side. So again, when we looked at Rasputin and Genghis before, you'll notice that they did have the triangular necklaces, whereas Napoleon and Attila have notably circle necklaces. And we'll go ahead now and pick up Attila, just removing that from his hand, in case you guys did want to see how they look up close and personal. Colors just slightly different. Now again, this one does have the visible teeth. Now this is how they look out of the packaging. If you did want to see what they look like with swapping out the head sculpts, take the one, of course, that's accurate in the same color scheme. So we'll just hold on to the torso here and wiggle off the head from the ball joint. Despite the sized ball joint, it looks like a basketball. They're actually pretty easy to replace. Again, just put the head back in. If anything, the heads that you get with the figures are maybe a little harder to get back in, but you can always heat these up, submerge this in hot water, or you can also take a hairdryer and just run a few passes over that to soften up the plastic. And then from there, you just get that back onto the torso. Just to quickly show you the difference between the two. And when it came to them coming out of the packaging, Napoleon and Attila basically just had the flip opposite head sculpt. So while we did change this one, this is the one that came included with, I guess, Napoleon. Now, looking at the articulation on these figures, they are also going to be the exact same. So I guess we really can just stick with this one for the time being. For Attila's articulation, his head rotates back and forth. It goes up, it goes down, and you can also rock it back and forth this way. I don't think I've got it all the way in there. There we go. The arms do hinge out, but I don't think you can actually get a full 90-degree angle bend. Just a little bit less than that. You can also take then the arms, rotate them all the way around. It has a single swivel in the elbow, but that single swivel also allows the elbow to bend. The hands rotate all the way around. Upper torso ball joint. Lower torso swivel, although the swivel on this guy is really super tight. The legs split out. They go forward and they go back. There's a swivel basically where that attaches to the ball joint. There's a double hinge on the knee. And then when it comes to the feet, they move back and forth, an ankle pivot. One criticism I could make about the frog line, I keep wanting to revert back to turtles here, is that I always find like these frogs have a problem splitting their legs. You probably have noticed it already a couple of times when I put them on the backdrop here. Like it looks like their legs want to fan out. This one actually seems the loosest of the two, which I guess this would be Napoleon. He seems the loosest of the two. I probably could go in there and maybe add floor polish or something to thicken up that joint. If I can pop the leg off, thicken the joint up a little bit, and then pop the leg back into place. But I have noticed, you can even see it there when I'm putting them back down on the surface here, they do want to split their legs a little bit. But that seemed to also be the case too when we looked at the other frogs as well, Rasputin and Genghis, which we can bring back in as well. Utilizing, yes, the same mold. Not bothered at all by the fact that they are using the same mold, if it meant at least that we're getting all the 4 frogs. To be fair as well, when you're looking at them in the episodes that they feature, the frogs all kind of look like they would be the same body anyways, and they just changed a little bit of the costumes of their colors, the colors of their shirts and the colors of their shorts. So again, logically, it would make sense that NECA Toys would release the same figure, just changing out those few little aspects. And the end result is, even while you are getting the same mold times 4, you're getting different looking frogs from one to the other. When we did get that initial release of Rasputin and Genghis, we knew sooner or later NECA Toys would be releasing Napoleon and Attila, and I guess they did want to leave enough of a space between the two releases, as it would be probably confusing to release two-pack frogs at the same time in retail. You know, they let Rasputin and Genghis sell, and after they sold, then a few months or probably it was about a year or so later, we now get ourselves Napoleon and Attila. And I gotta say, it's nice to finally have the 4 frogs on display with all of their dedicated accessories with them. I like the idea that when it comes to Napoleon and Attila, they do come with their weapon-specific accessories, similar to what the turtles are. I think when it's all said and done, though, my favorite of the 4 frogs is still Genghis. I really like the color scheme of Genghis. Who is your favorite frog, if you don't mind me throwing out that question to you, the viewing audience? Who is your favorite of the 4 frogs? Always like reading your comments down below. And I'd also like to, of course, thank the folks over at NECA Toys that made this review possible by taking the time and sending over Napoleon and Attila and completing finally the quartet of frogs for a display. And I gotta say, they look nice on display. If you guys are new to this channel, enjoying the content you're seeing, you can do a couple of things for yourself. One of which, you can hit that subscribe button down below. Second of which, you can turn on that bell notification. Third of which, you can keep your peepers peeled. Third of which, you can keep your peepers peeled to this channel. Because while we have finished and wrapped up the 4 frogs, there's definitely going to be a lot more NECA reviews lined up and coming your way. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.